Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to the ACW Newscast. I'm Hawking Johnson, your ACW commentator, as always. And before I get anything started, I want to wish all of you a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. So, whatever holiday you're celebrating this season, go ahead and enjoy with your loved ones, family, and friends. Um, as this is going to be a Christmas edition of the ACW Newscast here as we look a little bit back into 2018 and how crazy as it was for everybody that, whether you were watching wrestling or maybe something else, we're just a mere 7 to 8 days away from going into 2019. It's come pretty quickly, I must say. But I hope you guys are all enjoying your holiday season once again with your loved ones, family, and friends. But today, you know, I was low key going to just do a little comfy, calm Christmas stream. Let you guys control the newscast and give me your questions or give me any moments of this year you would like to look back and we can talk about. It doesn't have to be wrestling or CAW. It can be anything that happened in 2018 in general. That was just going to be the case, or at least that's what's going to start. But it's quite funny. Um, one second, hold on. Yeah, like I was saying, it's quite funny. Um, I got into a little bit of a firestorm, if you will, this past weekend. Um, got into a little bit of trouble. Hakeem is not up to his best behavior. Hakeem is I guess he's looking for trouble, quote unquote. But basically, I got into a little bit of a kerfuffle with one of the prominent wrestling journalists in the world, who runs one of the more prominent wrestling sites in the world, who covers wrestling, who gets paid to cover wrestling. So, we're going to talk about that first of all. I just want to say this first and foremost so that way no one gets it confused, so I can be absolutely clear. I have no issues with women wrestling. I have no issues with the evolution and the prominence women's wrestling has taken this year in general. I have no problem with that. Clearly, I'm not a sexist, and clearly, I'm none of those things that people are going to call me on or have called me on this weekend. However, with that being said, just because there are some valid points and legitimate truths that are conceived against women's wrestling does not make one sexist. I want to be very, very clear. And I want to establish that before we get into what I'm going to talk about in just a few short moments. Because I feel like as we head into 2019, the buck has to stop here. A line has to be drawn on the sand. Okay? Now, um, I'm not going to do a really long newscast. It's the holiday season. I don't want to keep you guys up here. That and I got a lot of programming that I need to get out this week. If everything goes correctly, there'll be a lot of ACW programming this week that'll come out for all of you guys. So, as it was just announced last night, the second round of the Glamour X Element tournament will be um, continuing this Sunday night. The Sunday night is when the second round of the Glamour X tournament will commence. Um, I do plan on having Impulse 100 this week as well. Anime Revolution might be kind of close to Saturday. I cannot confirm that. If not, it'll definitely be for next week. So that's where we're at with ACW programming at the moment. Um, but anyways, let's get to what. Let's get into it, okay? Let's get into it. So I wake up Saturday morning, right? I wake up Saturday morning and I was, I've been working all week. You know, By the way, working retail for a full 2 weeks during this holiday season is hell, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I will get my Christmas gift, trust me on that. But, it's the first day of me taking a break fully, so I was off. Woke up this morning thinking, okay, let me get some HW stuff done. and out here. And I wake up, I go to Twitter, I check what's scrolling up and downward, and all of a sudden, I see this one particular tweet, right? I see this one particular tweet that normally I would have just laughed off and went about my business, but I guess me working retail, I was just annoyed, and just the fact that these type of people continue to try to push their nonsense and expect people to eat their shit. I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna basically uh, call it out and see what happens. So let's get into it, right? Okay. So for some of you that are not aware of the wrestling media circle, and quite frankly, you're probably better than me in that case. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com. Sean Ross Sapp is one of the more prominent wrestling journalists around the world. I make no denial about that. I make no bones about that. He is. He's broken news stories. He's broken a lot of articles before. So in that sense, I commend that. But he said something really stupid, in my opinion. Something that I really thought was just inconceivably wrong in that sense. So here's a tweet that pretty much started the whole firestorm this weekend. Although um, I'll talk about another person that kind of preluded all this. But anyways, he says, "Yep, I think New Japan Pro Wrestling should have women. Nope, I don't know how to properly integrate them. Nope, I don't care that there are a bunch of women only promotions over there, because there are here too, and it still happened. Fight for inclusion, not segregation and exclusion." Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First things first, okay? First of all, and I want to make this clear too, because I know a lot of people did point this out, but I really didn't. I didn't even really point this out, but it does say a lot. This is not a racial issue either. I want to be very clear on that. This is not a racial issue in terms of, oh, these white people don't know anything about Joshi culture. I know a lot of white people that are very respectful and do know about the Puroresu culture and Joshi culture in particular, that know better than to say stupid shit like this. So it's not that. Although I just find it funny that people like this tend to look the same way and feel like they need to integrate their propaganda towards shit like this. But anyways, um, first things first. I think New Japan Pro Wrestling should have women. Why? I mean, technically they did. They have the Bullet Club Babe. Brandy Rose did a little thing here and there. Unless you're saying that women aren't allowed to be provocative and be confident with their beauty and their sexiness. Unless that's what you're saying. I think it's no denial that women's wrestling has always been a niche product. It's always been a niche audience. And even at that, even if you want to say the evolution and prominence of women's wrestling this year has evolved the aspect of what a woman wrestler should be, which I do agree with, ultimately sex sells. And that's always has been the integral point when it comes to women's wrestling in pro wrestling. That's just the case. Whether that's in Japan, North America, doesn't really matter. There's a sort of sex appeal that comes with pro wrestling, in particular when it comes to women wrestlers. So, either Sean is being purposefully ignorant, or he's that naive to think that his beliefs should reflect on everybody else's, and in particular New Japan, who I think have been more quite successful at what they've been doing than he has. But call that a hunch. He says also, I don't know how to properly integrate them. So you're admitting already that you don't have a solution to this certain thing you want to see addressed. You're basically just trying to say this, I don't know, to either get some retweets, to get some e-points. You're basically saying this basically to drum up some sort of discussion that you know is going to go into a shitstorm. You don't really provide any solution. Now, I saw some pretty decent ones. A lot of people said that maybe if New Japan partnered with Stardom or Ice Ribbon or Sendai Girls or Seed Linen, like those type of promotions, so where that way they can have like showcase matches on their card. that may be a little bit of a better solution, although I don't even think that is really necessary for what New Japan needs to do. My opinion personally is that New Japan has been successful for most of their tenure in Japan. And New Japan is going to run the way they want to operate, and they should be able to run it the way they want to run it. Just because they don't have any women's wrestlers, women, doesn't mean that New Japan is somehow sexist. Doesn't mean that New Japan is against women wrestlers. Um, there have been women wrestlers in New Japan going back to the early to mid 2000s, this past decade. So, for people to say that all of a sudden just because WWE um, started pushing their women's initiative, which basically was a PR stunt to follow the times of today's quote unquote modern feminism and the rise of women's athletes in sports. Don't get it wrong. As much as the women wrestlers in WWE have improved, have done well, and have put themselves on a pedestal to where they can be looked at as credible talents in their own right rather than just being counterparts to the men, the WWE still have ulterior motives here to where that's the reason why they're planning on doing a WrestleMania main event for women or there's an all women's pay per view. Because I'm sorry, if you look at what's going on right now with the WWE, there's been record low attendances, record low ratings. The buzz in mainstream press, unless it's Ronda Rousey, just isn't there when it comes to the women's wrestlers being a prominent figure in WWE. And that shouldn't really be a knock on the wrestling talent that are women. But the fact of the matter is that, look, Trish Stratus and Lita, they were popular back in their heydays too. They were very well big draws in their own right. But you're not putting a Trish Stratus or Lita main eventing over a Rock or Stone Cold or The Undertaker or Mankind. You're not doing that for anybody. Because they know, and I'm not trying to say know their place in that sense, but they know where their bread was buttered. Okay? So they knew where to make your money in your own way. So for you to say you don't know how to integrate them, that just tells me that you're basically just trying to score E points or trying to push some sort of progressive agenda, quote unquote, to try to shame others that may disagree with that stupid opinion. And then he says, nope, I don't care that there are a bunch of women-only promotions over there. That's just great quality feminism. That's just, I'm sure he's a feminist. He probably is a feminist. So, I'm sure, that's a great way to really push that women agenda there. I want women to be equal. I want women to be diverse. Oh, but I really don't care that there are women-only promotions in Japan. I don't care that they operate and make their own cultures. I don't care that they establish their own legacy in Japan. I don't care that they have true equality with the men promotions over in Japan. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to see women in New Japan because New Japan is the only Japanese company I really follow. It's the only New Japan. It's the only Japanese company that I really watch. It's the only company to me that I feel has the most buzz, so that way I can get more clicks and I can get more profit out of it. I don't want to take the time and effort as a paid journalist to do my due diligence and my integral part to go search out other promotions or even some women only promotions. I don't want to do that. That takes too much work. That's just too tiring. I just want to do the bare minimum. I just want to do WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor, maybe some Impact Wrestling here and there, and that's about it. That's what people like Sean Ross Sapp sound like. That's quite frankly what people like Sean Ross Sapp within the wrestling media circle come off as. And people like him are going to always give you these snark ass replies. They're going to always give you these dumbass responses to actual legitimate criticism because that's how they roll. They can never accept when they may be possibly wrong. They can never be accountable for sometimes not taking account other people's opinions. They want to be able to be passive aggressive. They want to be able to be snarky, and they want to be looking like bitches out here trying to tell you how to think and how to believe. And we'll get to why I called him a bitch in a few moments, but fight for inclusion, not segregation and exclusion. How can you say that about Japanese wrestling in particular when the Joshi culture and legacy, pick a promotion out there today, establishes that thing you're supposedly wanting inclusion? Inclusion doesn't necessarily equal equality. Inclusion, especially when it's forced, doesn't necessarily mean it's diverse. I'd rather have a woman's only promotion be proactive and build their own base to where they have a legacy to go back on and make money doing it than being forced into a promotion to where they will get less the pay, less the time, and less the outreach than they would with a Japanese women's only promotion. Sorry, that's just me. I don't know. I don't know if Sean Ross Sapp and the other people like him really value women's wrestling in Japan, or probably in general at this point, in that way. But that's how I feel, right? So that happened, right? Um, so then I made some replies here and there, right? So I said, uh, it's like you're saying women need to wrestle in Wrestle Kingdom to have exposure when those women centric promotions do that for them. Not very progressive of you, fam. Way to be smug and overdramatic. What you may personally want to see doesn't correlate with the wrestling culture there is. Nothing wrong. I mean, sorry, what the wrestling culture there is, and there is nothing wrong with that. If you don't understand. So, basically, I told him women wrestlers don't need to compete in a Wrestle Kingdom or any big, event in Japan like that to be validated. They already are validated through their own work in Joshi. That should be revered, that should be respected, and that should be recognized. Just because you don't understand the culture in Japan, just because you as an American, like me as an American, just because you feel your beliefs here in the Western culture, which I think is great by the way, but just because you think your Western culture beliefs should reflect on the Japanese culture doesn't mean Japan has to follow uh, your um your example. Thank you. I was looking for the word. Your example. If you don't like what you propose New Japan is doing with the exclusion, quote unquote, of women, then don't watch it. Don't support it. It's really that easy. It's really that simple to me. I will never understand why people try to ruin things for everybody. It's like, if you don't like what you're seeing, if you don't want to watch, if you don't want to support monetarily what you're seeing here in New Japan, then go follow another promotion that does fit to those beliefs that you have or perceive to have. Or go support the actual Joshi promotions that would need it. The ones that WWE are looking to raid anyways. So why don't you just do that? Instead of trying to go here to New Japan and force them to bow down to your needs. So that way it just ruins it for everybody. Because you've already done that here in the US. You're doing it now in the UK. Lord knows what might happen in, say, Mexico in a year or so. And now you're trying to do it here in Japan. If you're that gung-ho about it, then shut up and wait for NXT Japan at that point. Because that's coming anyways. The same people that like New Japan to a point, they'll shut the fuck up and they'll stop giving New Japan so much press once the proposed NXT Japan comes on. That's what's going to happen. Watch. Every single one of these journalists that have supported New Japan, quote unquote, that have been talking about New Japan, quote unquote, you're going to start seeing a little bit of a decline of talk. You're going to see a little bit of that buzz die down a little bit once Vince and Hunter and Steph and all those guys start seeing that and want to make NXT Japan, aka JWWE. That's what they want to do. They want to be able to control the Japanese wrestling culture to be their own way. Period. Because they're already doing it with NXT UK on the contracts. You don't think it's going to happen here with the NXT Japan? You don't think there's a reason why Nakamura and Asuka won the Rumble this year? Why Io was in the Mae Young Classic Finals? Why Kairi became NXT Women's Champion at one point this year? You don't see Asuka being now the SmackDown Women's Champion? You don't see where this is going? You don't see what they're trying to do? You don't see where the next country is going to be affected by this after the UK? 2019 is going to be a very interesting year in that sense. But I wasn't done here. So I pretty much replied to him, and I was very, very cordial about it. Although a little snarky, yes. But Sean Ross Sapp was snarky from the get-go. So I explained to him why that was a dumbass opinion, right? And then he replies back here. He says, and me posting a tweet doesn't crumble Japanese civilization as we know it, because I think it'd be neat to see women at a Wrestle Kingdom to expose them on a different platform. Again, let's break this down. No one said your tweet was going to crumble Japanese civilization. Nice straw man there, but how about you address my point actually? No one was saying that your tweet was going to crumble Japanese civilization. We're just saying that Joshi culture has been very progressive and proactive to where that women can be able to support themselves in a more financial way about it. And that way they can be able to showcase themselves with their talent and their own personalities, as opposed to getting maybe a 10-minute match or 12-minute match over on a New Japan card that will be stacked anyways on a normal card. And I like the little admission you made here because that's how unaware, that's the lack of self awareness you have here. You're here saying, I think you need to see women at a Wrestle Kingdom to expose them on a different platform. But they're already on platforms you can support right now. Right now! You can support them right now. Hell, Stardom just announced that they're going to be here during WrestleMania weekend in New York for their event. Now read the tweet. They'll be at the New York City Arena in Queens on April 5th, 2019 at 4 o'clock p.m. Actually, the tickets go on sale tomorrow, by the way. So if you actually do want, if you're in the New York area or if you do want to travel to New York and see that stuff, maybe you can go support it. I know a lot of wrestling journalists like to talk a big game. Well, bitch, you guys can support this right now. If you guys want to talk this game, support this here. Tickets are going to come out tomorrow night for Christmas Day. It's called the American Dream 2019 in the Big Apple, so make sure you guys go check that out. But, anyways, again, Wrestle Kingdom, again, it's not the be-all end-all for a lot of these women wrestlers to be exposed or for them to be cemented as legends of their own right. They already are. You know what I'm saying? Just because, Kairi Hojo or Io Shirai didn't compete per se at a Wrestle Kingdom, does that mean they aren't legends in their own right? You wouldn't dare say that. So again, it comes from a lot of these progressives in wrestling that have co-opted pro wrestling, quite frankly. And I've been saying it for years, and everybody was like, "Oh no, Hakeem, you're just playing. Hakeem, you're being psychotic. Hakeem, you're just being, a little bit paranoid. They would never do that. It would never come down to it." Well, look at where we're at heading into 2019. Look at where we're at right now. Honestly, I'm gonna have to start calling myself Hakeem Damas here because I've been said this. I've been saying this for quite some time, and a lot of people continue to refuse to ignore the obvious. It's on them, of course, but it just makes me laugh that now we're here at what we're at now, to where wrestling journalists are trying to dictate an entire country's wrestling culture. That's how far off the deep end we've gotten here in pro wrestling in today's modern society. Oh, but the fun kept going. The fun kept going, however. So after that, I called Sean Ross Sapp a cuck, basically, because that's pretty much what he is. A lot of these wrestling journalists are cucks, really. But, I said that basically people like him are being pro wrestling and are trying to co-opt it to be what they want it to be. And then Sean Ross basically called me a pussy. And that's how gotten to he was at that point. Sean Ross knew that a lot of people were making valid points of his stupid ass opinion. A lot of people noticed that they weren't on his side because that's why he made the tweet. He thought if he made a basic equality tweet that he would get the majority to support him, and he found out quickly that not only did he not get he did not get that majority support, but he also realized that a lot of people are tired of people like him trying to infiltrate and co-opt something that they like. And it's not just wrestling, whether it's video games, whether it's, music, comics, sci-fi. They're trying to do with anime too, by the way, which is another funny comparison with this. But these type of people will do and stop at nothing to try to co-opt an entertainment vehicle for people to escape the realism. That's the entire point of pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is a way to escape realism for the next 2 or 3 hours. Now, granted, I'm not saying that you can't have, real life situations in your pro wrestling, or you can't have certain politically run situations in wrestling. But there's a reason why you got to do it in a way that it's entertaining, to where it's a microcosm of what it actually is. I see a lot of people say, there's so many stereotypes in pro wrestling. Yes, pro wrestling is a theatrical, athletic sport. That's what it is. Of course, there's going to be a lot of characters that are over exaggerated, whether they're villains or heroes. That's the way pro wrestling has always been. There's no doubt that ever since the business has become more reality based, that you saw a lot of decline in in the casual audience's interest in pro wrestling. It's not a lot to put two and two together for. So basically, Sean Ross called me a pussy, and I'm like, okay, okay. I've been kind of a little bit cordial to you at this point, although I did call you some names here and there. But hey, you shot the first fire, so if you really want to call me a pussy out here, that's fine. We can do that. If you want to be petty, I can be petty too. I promise you, you won't win that against me though, because there's a reason why I don't like to be petty. There's a reason why I don't like to be petty online. I don't like to do that kind of stuff because I know how I am if I do get to that sort of level, if I do get to that sort of mind space. I know how I am. So I try to avoid it. And like I said, on a normal day, I probably would have ignored this. I probably would have just kept going about my business and doing my ACW programming. But this tweet and people like him irritate me to no end. At some point, you got to draw the line. You got to let these people know that we're tired of you shitting up something that is enjoyable for all people in pro wrestling. Even if you don't like the content that you're getting in wrestling, simply don't watch or support it. I don't. You don't see me supporting or giving WWE my money. I haven't subscribed to the WWE network in years. I haven't watched the full Raw on my TV in years. Okay, I haven't bought any merchandise for them in years. You know, stick to your core beliefs. But that's the problem with wrestling journalists like him. They don't have any core beliefs. They just say a lot of empty platitudes, so that way they can get some sort of instant gratification from some people that they don't even like, so they can feel important, feel like they're doing something with their lives. And again, this is a paid journalist doing this. This is a paid journalist that admitted to me, and I don't have the tweet for this, but he admitted to me that he doesn't know much about the Joshi culture. So this stupid motherfucker here is trying to tell me and people like me that I gotta accept his opinion and I have to accept the way he has to enjoy pro wrestling in Japan. But he says to himself, this is a paid journalist, one of the prominent journalists in wrestling media, who covers this for a living for money and clicks. A guy that is supposed to be doing his job, telling me and telling people like me that we gotta accept his opinion, and he doesn't know the solution, he doesn't even know the knowledge of it, but we've gotta accept it. Go fuck yourself, Sean Ross Sapp. Get fucked. People like you are so toxic and so annoying and just so irritating when it comes to stuff like this. We can't ever enjoy wrestling anymore. I'm not saying that we have to go back to the bra and panty matches with women matches in 2018. Okay? A lot of you people watch porn anyway, so you really don't need it that bad. But at the end of the day, especially in television wrestling, aesthetics matter. And sex sells still in 2018. No matter what you say or no matter what you perceive it to be as. Sex sells. It always will sell. And women, just like the men as well, by the way, which you won't address on that point too, men and women have a certain sex appeal to them for the most part in television wrestling that the casual audience is going to be attracted to. Period. But that's for another topic. I'm kind of getting off track here. So, Sean Ross Sapp, he was getting blown the fuck out by a lot of people on wrestling Twitter. And I gotta be proud of all those wrestling fans. Not even just the Japanese wrestling fans or Joshi wrestling fans, but wrestling fans in general were just tired of Sean Ross Sapp's nonsense and just pushed him back to where he had to be nice about it and make a little bit of a nice tweet about it, which I'll get to in a minute. But you must be wrong. You must be wrong if you thought Sean Ross Sapp was the only person that wanted to get in on this. If you thought Sean Ross Sapp was the only culprit of this nonsense. If you thought Sean Ross Sapp was the only person saying this kind of stuff. You are dead wrong. Because guess who joined, right? And by the way, these tweets about calling me a pussy, he deleted them. So he's gonna call me a pussy twice, but then deletes the tweets like a pussy. Good to know. Good to know, Sean. That's great. That's good for you to hear. You're a big boy. Big boy. You're a strong man. You're a strong man. Grr, Sean Ross Sapp. Prominent guy. Good dude. Good dude. He's a pussy. He's a pussy. He's a pussy. But then deletes his tweets like a certified bitch. Like a pussy. That's great, Sean. You're doing good for your job. You're doing good for who you represent. You are the epitome of wrestling fans of 2018 going on 2019. You truly are. Good job. But you're not the only one, and I quite frankly think you're not even the worst culprit on this. Because guess who joined in? Guess who had to chime in too? Oh, our resident beta wrestling journalist himself, Ryan Satin of the Pro Wrestling Sheet. He wanted to join in on this as well. I haven't busted out a newscast live in a while, but this is warranted for this, right? Oh my god. Okay. So Ryan Satin wants to jump in here. He wants to be the new challenger approaching. And, he wants to come here and say, in a sarcastic way, because that's how all these progressives talk. That's how all these progressives interact. That's how all these progressives like to reply. They can never do it genuinely. They are never honest about it. They have to be snarky. They have to be smug. They have to be passive-aggressive assholes. So, of course, Ryan Satin has to jump in when no one called or asked for him. And he had to sarcastically say, "Careful, Sean. When I said this once, I got crucified. But Joshi!" Can you just believe in this asshole talking right now? Can you just honestly see the stupidity that a former TMZ writer, paparazzi idol does here? Comes in here after he failed at TMZ, being one of these paparazzi scum, comes into pro wrestling now and tries to infiltrate it and imply that his opinion is of a higher order than everybody else. That he wants to implement his TMZ tactics now in pro wrestling. Because that's exactly what this business needs, right? That's exactly what pro wrestling needs, right? We need journalists and fanboys to follow these wrestlers and people in the business around to get their inner thoughts on stupid shit. That's what we definitely need. And I said below, and I replied, "You're worse than Sap. Stay in your lane and tweet about your normie ass tier memes on Pro Wrestling Cheats." That's what I said. First of all, I want to make this known. Ryan Satin, who I believe blocks me. Yeah, Ryan Satin blocks me on my Anime Championship Wrestling account on Twitter a couple of years back. I think a year or so ago, and I remember it because I told him off on it, and I'm probably sure maybe a little bit of you remember, but it was at last year's Wrestle Kingdom, right, where Chris Jericho was going to take on Kenny Omega, and the day before, Jericho was talking about memories with Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit when they used to travel in Japan. And granted, I know Chris Benoit's still a bit of a taboo in wrestling, but if anyone knows Benoit and Guerrero as like close friends, if not maybe damn near close family, it would be Chris Jericho. So of course Ryan Satin and his dumbass and his just annoying gnat tactic abilities had to just come in and I don't know it verbatim, but he basically went down and said, Jericho talking about Chris Benoit. Maybe Jericho should be careful what he talks about. He doesn't know how much Chris Benoit has done to affect the business. And I'm looking at that tweet like, motherfucker, do you understand what Jericho had to go through during that time period? I'm not excusing Benoit and what he did. I'm not excusing the man and what he did to his family and ultimately himself. He's a coward. He's a piece of shit who deserves to be at hell and never being part of the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I'm with that. What I'm not with is the fact that, do you understand what Jericho had to go through? Losing Eddie back in 2005, 2 years later, loses Chris Benoit. Two men that he traveled with for over 3 decades all over the world. And the fact that Jericho had to cope with the fact that one of his close friends and family members he would consider family was a murderer, was a mass murderer. Jericho had to cope with that. And just when Jericho probably was starting to finally move on and just kind of forget about that, here comes this dumb motherfucker who calls himself a journalist, trying to stir up certain fake drama to get clicks and to get money off of it. So when Jericho told him the next day, fuck Ryan Satin, you're not going to be on the Jericho cruise, I laughed my ass off. Because that's what you need to be telling these people. That's what you need to tell these people. That's what you need to be trying to tell these people. What happened to the era where you can just tell someone to shut the fuck up? It's like that era is like an era that's long gone. What happened to just telling someone to shut the fuck up when they say stupid shit like this? These journalists have no integrity. They have no core beliefs. These people consider themselves to be the pedestal of what a journalist should be. And people like Ryan Satin, people like Sean Ross Sapp, you know, people of that nature, and other people, David Bixenspan too, and people like him, like to want to be the gatekeepers of today's wrestling. But then they want to force their opinions upon other people that follow this business, or whoever's left at this point. And then they'll ask themselves, well, why is wrestling on a downward spot? Why is wrestling not catching the casual audience? Somebody was asking, why does, you know, pro wrestling have a bad stigma? I wonder why. I wonder why pro wrestling still has a bad stigma in today. Because of stupid shit like this. So I told him, you know what? You don't know those two like Jericho did. You have no right to try to tell Jericho how to feel about it, you asshole. And he blocked me. So that told me, okay, basically Ryan's a beta pussy. Got it. Okay, I kind of figured anyways. I just wanted to be confirmed on it. Good to see I was right again. So, you know, now that I have this non-HW account here, which you also can follow. For those that aren't aware, I have a non-HW Twitter account, which is at Hakeem is winning. HAKEEM is winning. So if you want to go follow me there, where I talk about stuff other than ACW, you can follow me there. But anyways, so I replied to him, and I basically told Ryan to fuck off. No one asked for him. You're worse than Sap. Shut the fuck up. So after a while, after Sean and Ryan were getting their shit pushed in, he finally backtracked and he tweeted this out. The New Japan Pro Wrestling women conversation should be had, regardless of what side of the fence you're on. If you disagree with my stance with admittedly limited education, talk about it, and I will too. And I just laughed my ass off because what a pussy. So I quote tweeted him saying, calls me a pussy, thought he had the high ground, backtracks his dumbass opinion to stop people blowing him the fuck out on here. Check your fire next time, bitch. I don't respect someone like Sean Ross Sapp for when he will start off the conversation saying, women should be included in New Japan. I don't care how it's done. I don't care whatever other excuses you may have. I don't care whatever replies you have. This is my opinion. This should be basically what it should be. I don't care. If you don't like it, then you're on the wrong side of history. You're just a sexist. You're just just someone that hates women. But then once the majority told him to fuck off, you idiot, that's not what anyone was saying, and we're not that, you asshole. Then he wants to take a little softer approach. He wants to take a little bit of a nice tone with the people that he's talking with. He wants to have a conversation. No, I don't want to have a conversation with you. You were disingenuous from the start, and you're being disingenuous now. If you had simply said that I believe that women should be in New Japan Wrestling, but I'm willing to hear other takes on it, to have a thoughtful conversation, okay, fine. I still disagree with you, but we can have that conversation like two cordial men, or one man and one form of a man. But we can have that conversation and talk about it and maybe find a consensus. But no, you came out guns blazing. You wanted to make your opinion fact. You wanted to shame others that may have a different opinion than yours. And you wanted to go ahead and think that this was the way things should be run in a different country with a different wrestling culture, despite you admitting here 3 times that you have limited knowledge of the culture in Japan, let alone Joshi culture, and that you don't know the solution to even bring women into New Japan or any other promotion that is in Joshi. Your words, not mine. And then once people started pushing you back because you thought you had the majority, you thought you had the high ground, and you clearly didn't, now you want to change the subject, and now you want to make sure you look like the absolute victim. You want to be able to look like you're the hero of the story. You want to go ahead and say, oh, I was just looking for a conversation. I don't get why people are attacking me. I don't get why people are going after me. I was just trying to have a conversation. I was just making an opinion. Ah, fuck off. This is what you people do. You guys are cowards. You guys are cowards in the sense that you will make an opinion, you will make it your core belief, and then when someone detracts you for it, when someone talks about it, when someone calls you out on it, now you want to backpedal, make sure you don't trip on your ankle, bitch, but then you want to backpedal on it, and then all of a sudden, you want to have a thoughtful conversation. No, you don't. You never wanted a conversation. You're only saying this because the majority of people destroyed you. The majority of people told you you were stupid. Because let's be clear, if the majority didn't do that, if the majority did agree with you, you would have doubled down. And I know you would have, because you deleted those tweets that called me a pussy. Luckily, I'm smarter than you, I screenshotted it because I knew you would delete it. But that's what happened. You're a prominent journalist. You're someone that runs Fightful.com, a guy that gets paid for that website. And here's you making this stupid ass opinion about something that you admittedly don't know about. But yet I'm a pussy. I'm the one that's wrong. You know, I said this before on a newscast, but I encouraged true wrestling fans, and when I say true wrestling fans, I mean those that don't use this as a platform for their other nonsensical takes outside of wrestling. I told fans that you need to start calling these people out. If you recall one newscast a couple of months ago, I said that you guys need to start calling these people out. Because what they do is that they have a blue check mark next to them, right? They have some sort of connections with wrestling people or wrestlers themselves. You know, they are journalists that have the news and the breaking stories. And they use that power as fear. They use that status to make you fear of them, to make you think that you have no right to talk to them that way. You have no right to tell them what they should think, that you have no right to reject the shit that they are forcing down your throat. They use that as fear. They use that as fear, and that's where the power comes from. But when you push back, when you push back against them, when you push back against them, and you say, no, fuck you, this is my opinion, and if you're going to force me to agree with you, then you're a cunt. When you push back against them, they cower. They cower or they deflect, or they do both. They cower, they deflect, they ignore. They do every trick in the book to not stand their ground on something that they supposedly represent. Sean Ross Sapp, Ryan Satin, David Bixenspan, Rovert, a lot of these people are the absolute epitome and representation of what is wrong of being a pro wrestling fan in 2018, 2019. Because they will state opinions that many people will disagree with, and then will have the nerve to backtrack and be passive aggressive about it once you push back at them, to where then they will scale back and try to play victim / hero and make you look to be the bad guy. Luckily for me, I don't give a shit. Luckily for me, I believe in my core beliefs, and that goes for anything. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's one thing about me. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it. I have no problem admitting it. Because I have no problem learning from other people. That doesn't bother me. What does bother me is when people who are wrong will not acknowledge it and will refuse to learn anything from it and will continue to double down and do it. That is what bothers me. That is what irritates me. And when it comes to professional wrestling, that is becoming a reoccurring thing that continues to annoy people like me and everybody around the world. Sean Ross Sapp, you're a pussy, and I'm calling you a pussy, and I won't delete my words. I won't delete this video like you did with yours. Sean, you're a pussy because you have the status and power to be honest and to be objective with your beliefs. Even if you have a belief that maybe people won't disagree with, you can find a consensus to disagree with and maybe a consensus to agree with as well. You have the power to where we can have conversations to where you don't have to shame people for certain opinions that you may feel you don't agree with. But no, you're the type of person that will double down and call people pussies and bitch about it. That's you. You know, the Sean Ross Sapps and the Ryan Sattins. You know, people talk about Dave Meltzer and they give him shit, and quite frankly, he does deserve some of it because he has some wrong opinions too. But Dave Meltzer's been doing this for 3 to 4 decades. He's actually been on the ground to where he's been able to establish a legacy to where his opinions and beliefs have more credibility than a lot of these people that are doing this now. I'm not the biggest Meltzer fan in the world. I've talked so much about how star ratings are kind of stupid and how Meltzer seems to have bias with certain companies that give him certain sources here and there. But with that being said, I'll take Meltzer's word and I'll take his newsletter at least before I take the Sean Ross Sapps and the Ryan Sattins of the world. Because at least there's a legitimacy with Dave Meltzer. At least Dave Meltzer, unless you're being an asshole about it, at least Dave Meltzer will conversate with you. These people won't. Or at least these people won't do it genuinely. They won't be honest about it. So I'm going to ask you all again, and I'm proud of each and every one of you that did combat this nonsense, because make no mistake about it, Sean Ross Sapp and the people like him expected you to fold. They expected you guys to not respond. They expected you guys to basically get on your knees and bow. And a lot of you didn't. And I'm proud of you for doing that. So I'm making the call to not just Japanese wrestling fans, not to just Joshi wrestling fans, but wrestling fans in general that are sick and tired of this bullshit. Look, there are people within the wrestling circle that I follow that I disagree with a lot, maybe say socially, politically, and other things. But at the end of the day, we're wrestling fans. I could give a shit what your social, religious, political beliefs. I don't give a shit. I don't care what gender, I don't care what race you are or religion you represent. I don't give a shit. As long as we're able to talk wrestling in a more cordial and honest manner, to where we can just discuss things and find a consensus or maybe just agree to disagree, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. But these people don't care. These people will guilt shame anybody that they disagree with in any level. And that doesn't create conversation at all. So, Sean, don't think just because you have a blue check mark, you're quote unquote maybe more important than me. Because you're not. You're a human just like I am. You're a quote unquote wrestling fan just like I am. Excuse me. Sean called me a pussy today. Validated everything that wrestling journalism and people like that are. So, Sean, Ryan, and people like you, fuck you for being disingenuous. Fuck you for insulting me when you had the nerve to admit things that made this conversation a mute point. Fuck you for trying to quote unquote educate me when you admitted that you have limited education on the subject. Fuck you for trying to push the fact that I am wrong just because I have an opinion that are different from you. And fuck you for being a supposed wrestling journalist but not doing enough research or having enough care about this certain topic at hand, and you're just pushing your beliefs. Someone asked you, and I forgot to screenshot this, but someone asked you, if you care so much about this, why don't you cover Joshi wrestling? And you know what he said? He said because it didn't generate enough traffic, money, and clicks. And that pretty much was the epitome of this entire conversation. Sean Ross Sapp didn't give a fuck to cover Joshi wrestling because there's no traffic in it. I don't give a damn what the question is. I don't give a damn what the reasoning is. If you truly do care about women's wrestling, if you want that expanded in your own way in Japan, then you would cover Joshi wrestling. Damn it if it gives you clicks or not. Or you would get people to do it for you. But, again, this is a business and it's about money, and you understand that. There's nothing wrong with that, but you understand that this is a business, and in a business, it's to make money. So all your platitudes about equality and women are empty, and they don't mean shit. Because this is about money to you. This is about money, and this is about clicks. Which is fine, but then be honest about that. Don't come over here trying to act like you have the moral high ground. Because I can promise you, you don't. And you never did. Before I close this, though, however, I do want to just one more person. Because although Sean Ross Sapp increased the fire, he didn't really start it. He didn't start this. This bitch did. Chelsea Green. So, for those that know who Chelsea Green are, and if you don't, I mean, you're not alone in that. But Chelsea Green wrestled at Stardom, which is ironic given this conversation. She did a tour at Stardom at one point. Wrestled for TNA / Impact as Laurel Van Ness. And then afterwards wrestled in the Mae Young Classic. No, not yeah, the Mae Young. No, not she didn't. No, she didn't wrestle in the Mae Young Classic. But she's now signed with NXT now this year. She's currently dating Zack Ryder. So I don't have the original tweet screenshotted, but what she basically said, she did a subtweet saying, imagine being a wrestling promotion in 2018 that doesn't have women, LOL. And it's like, I wonder who she's talking about. I mean, it can't be WWE. What is it? Ring of Honor with the Women of Honor? I doubt that. Impact Wrestling with their knockouts? I doubt that. Lucha Underground that does intergender wrestling? I doubt that. Chat. You guys gotta help me. Do you guys know any promotion that would fit that kind of description that Chelsea was talking about on that tweet? It's I don't know, guys. I don't want to assume. Assuming is a bad thing. I don't want to assume that she meant what I think she might have meant. Do you guys know? I mean, we can play Blue's Clues if you want, but I don't think I'm finding Blue's fingerprints on this particular promotion. I don't know. What do you guys think? It could be yeah, it could be a Japanese promotion, but I don't know. There's a lot of Japanese promotions. I mean, well, let me ask this: like, what would be the biggest Japanese promotion? Maybe that's what she's talking about, right? I don't know, guys. Let me see here. Nah, starts with an N. I guess we're getting close here. I guess we're getting close. Noah? Maybe. By the way, I think I tweeted this earlier today, but hot take though. I personally thought Noah was a better promotion than New Japan this year, but that's a different topic. Um, let's see, All Japan, CCW. I don't think that's in Japan, but Oh, you guys are mentioning it. I think you guys might be right. Is it New Japan Pro Wrestling? Is that what I'm getting at here? I can't confirm it, but I'm just going to roll with it. I'm just going to take your word for it and say that it's New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't know it. I'm just assuming. We're all assuming here, but I think it's New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? So let's just assume that. That being said, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the promotion, biggest Japanese promotion in the world, that does not have a women's division. And so Chelsea Green, just because she's now signed with NXT slash WWE, feels the need to take pot shots at New Japan Pro Wrestling because my women's revolution. And it's just the ignorance of, wrestlers are the most entitled and sensitive people you will ever come across, whether it's social media or in person. The only group of people that I would think would be next to wrestlers in that sense would be rappers. But I think wrestlers really are the more insane and insensitive and unentitled and just entitled people you'll ever meet. Because a lot of these wrestlers will bitch about they missed their flight, the air travel program is delayed, yada yada. I mean, are you gonna bitch at the air company, whether it's you know American Airlines or United Airlines or whatever? Are you gonna bitch about them every day, saying you guys are wrong, you guys need to do better quality? But if the fans bitch about wrestling and certain wrestlers, we can't do that. Yeah, you guys can't handle criticism. That's what it comes down to. So Chelsea Green's over here making a obvious subtle pot shot to New Japan Pro Wrestling with their lack of women's division. And it's funny because Chelsea Green was a part of the Stardom tour about 2 years ago. The infamous dropkick that she took from Mayu, right? When she just drop kicked her shit in the face. Um, and allegedly that's why she left the Stardom tour, because she couldn't handle slash hang with the Stardom girls. So Chelsea Green now obviously is trying to make pot shots because WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling are having a very obvious um, Cold War. And I again, Hakeem Adamas predicted that too last year too, but whatever. But New Japan and WWE have had their Cold War this year, and it's pretty clear that WWE is going to look to try to establish an NXT base in Japan. It's coming. You can see the wheels in motions to that. You saw it with NXT UK and the way that they've partnered, or really the way they've pretty much poached Progress and ICW and WXW over in Germany. They're going to do the same thing here in Japan. I can bet you right now they're going to look to poach, and we'll see how right I am in about a year or two. They'll probably poach Noah and Stardom, is what I'm thinking. Is what they're going to do. But um, Chelsea's an idiot, and Chelsea makes a lot of stupid tweets. Um, I used to follow her. I think this was the I think this weekend was when I actually unfollowed her finally, because it's like you can only take a threshold of stupidity until you have to get rid of it. But Chelsea's been known to make stupid tweets. You know, she'll make a lot of tweets about my feminism, and you know why do wrestling fans try to look at women, even though Chelsea Green has a character that is provocative and very assertive with her body, and yet she's asking why people are looking at her a certain way. You dumb, oh my god! But just wrestlers just don't get it. And then she made this tweet saying, "Also, my tweet was never about New Japan Pro Wrestling. You guys can keep guessing though with the Grinch gif." Um, Yeah, yeah, sure, Chelsea. You weren't talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you were clearly talking about Impact Wrestling with the knockouts, or you were talking about Ring of Honor with the Women of Honor. You were talking about Lucha Underground with their intergender wrestling. Maybe you're talking about WWE with their Women's Revolution. It clearly wasn't about New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, sure, buddy. You can't even lie correctly. Just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. If you don't if you don't know what you're talking about, which you clearly didn't, and you didn't expect that people were gonna push a shit in that were named Zack Ryder, then you pretty much were gonna backpedal and then say, oh guys, no, I wasn't pretending to be retarded. I didn't mean New Japan Pro Wrestling. I swear. What an idiot. Um, this topic about women's wrestling in Japan, it's always a dumb topic because if you don't understand the culture, if you don't know the legacy of Joshi, and if you don't know the way the structure of Japanese culture is in wrestling, then you don't know exactly how that can be affected. Now, granted, if the day comes when New Japan does want to take in women to their promotion, fine. But that's going to be on their terms, not yours as an entitled American. That'll be up to Japan and the people there. And there's nothing you can do about that. Okay? The reason why I'm irritated about this is because I've noticed a lot of Japanese entertainment and media trying to be infiltrated with a lot of these Westerners, a lot of Americans. Whether that's wrestling, especially if that's anime. Fuck Crunchyroll, by the way. But whether that's, wrestling, anime, J-pop, video games, they're trying to infiltrate those type of medias in Japan as well. And it's just the entitlement that people have as Americans that they think they can just go over to another country and dictate their culture. You know, I don't like the way a lot of things are run in the Middle East. I don't love the way certain countries in the Middle East run and actually oppress women and minorities there. But it's their culture. It's going to be up to them to decide how that changes their society. And that's the way I look at it here. And no, I wasn't comparing the two situations. I know a lot of people that are anti what I'm saying right now, and I'm sure the likes of probably Sean or a lot of these other wrestlers or people in the business, they probably are low-key might be listening to this. Maybe not listening to it, but this will probably get around. I'm not comparing the two, so let's cut the bullshit. But yeah, Chelsea's an idiot. Um, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She just tried to talk about shit that she really just knows nothing about. Just stay in NXT, do the whole Florida loop, and shut the fuck up. I don't. It's funny to me, and I tweeted this to somebody about this during the conversation, but I cannot remember a woman's wrestler that has been given so much of a forced push in the independents and other mainstream promotions who is so mediocre and so paint by the numbers as Chelsea Green. What in the fuck are people talking about saying that she's one of the best women's wrestlers out there? I never got that. She wasn't one of the best when she was a part of TNA, in my opinion. She wasn't one of the best women wrestlers in the independents. She damn sure isn't one of the best wrestlers in NXT, let alone WWE. So where did this whole bullshit about Chelsea Green being a elite wrestler come from? Unless we're just pushing every women's wrestler because we're having a women's revolution. You don't do that for the men, so I don't know why you're doing that for the women either. There are mediocre to even bad women wrestlers, and not just divas. We're talking about women's wrestlers that we want to revere. There are a lot of overrated, bad, or even mediocre wrestlers that are women, just like there are men. So there shouldn't be no double standards here, although that's what you guys do. So, all in all, my final point is this. I know this week we're going to get a lot of podcasts and articles about, this stupid shit about women in Japanese wrestling. You know it's coming. I'm sure Sean will make a stupid ass op-ed, and I'll be there to pwn him again. I know Ryan Satin will do his stupid ass podcast that nobody watches. I know Chelsea Green will probably do another subtweet that nobody will care to really retweet about because no one really cares about her like that. And yes, bitch, the only reason why you're really relevant is because you're Zack Ryder's girlfriend. You don't like it, then do some. Then it's too bad, bitch. Then do something that's worthwhile that you don't have to be Zack Ryder's, uh, you know, rebound from Emma. But nonetheless, that was basically the whole thing this weekend about um, about the wrestling Twitter. It's just ridiculous. Again, like I said, a lot of fans need to start pushing back on this nonsense because the more you keep letting these people do it, the more they're gonna get away with it. If you don't fear the blue check, if you don't fear their status in wrestling, push them back. Push them back. Debate them, refute their points, conversate with them, because they're expecting you to bow down to them. Wrestlers, wrestling media, people in the wrestling business, they're expecting you to bow to them because how dare you criticize wrestlers when we give it our all? How dare you criticize journalists when we try to work to give you stories? Fuck that. These are the same people that'll complain and bitch about airplane travel. They'll complain about the quality of their food in the restaurant, but we can't do that for a wrestler, or we can't do that for a wrestling show. Yeah, I don't think so. So that was it for the whole conversation about the whole women's wrestling in Japan. I was gonna be a little bit more furious. I was going to do a newscast last night, but I wasn't able to, and I was ready to be even more into it. But I pushed it back till today. So, but yeah, um, that was that for that. So let's get to the questions and comments before we wrap it up here. Let's get to that. Any questions you would like to ask me on this, say, Christmas special edition of the newscast, you guys can go ahead and post it on the chat, and I will answer them to the best of my abilities. Um, Speaking of which, by the way, I hope you guys are enjoying the new outline, the new layer, the new layout for the newscast. I was going to debut it during Animania 5 week, but I can't. I couldn't avoid I couldn't avoid this whole thing last weekend, so I said screw it. But yeah, so I was gonna debut this on Animania 5 week, but I thought, screw it, I can just do it here for Christmas. By the way, our next newscast will be for Christmas, for New Year's Eve, or maybe the day before New Year's Eve. If not, we don't do a New Year's Eve um, newscast. The next newscast will be during Animania 5 week, which should be coming very shortly, hopefully. So, let's get to the questions here. Did you have another brand name before ACW? Yes, I did. It was called ACW Turbo. It was basically the third brand, your quote-unquote ECW brand of ACW. Essentially, I was using Data Reckoning 2 for Excel, but then it crapped out on me, so I had to use, I think it was SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, for Turbo to replace Excel for the time being, which is why there's a reason why Impulse has 5 more episodes ahead of Excel. But then once I was able to get back Excel running, there was really no need for Turbo anymore, so I was able to pretty much put it by the wayside. I know a lot of people have asked me if I was ever going to bring back Turbo. I don't know if I'm bringing back Turbo as a full brand, but maybe as a reunion or something, I can bring back Turbo and see what that transpires. What do you think about Soldier Boy Pirate Console bullshit? And oh man, I'll answer the Soldier Boy question, but if you had another question, just post it on the chat. Um, for those that really bought the Soldier Boy console, you can't. You first of all, it's not even a real console. It's just probably a port console with already established games from other previous consoles. It is what it is, man. Was it a scam? Sure, probably it was. Soldier Boy's trying to make his money, and him trying to talk shit about Nintendo on YouTube. It's just another entitled rapper trying to, get into the game because of the whole Fortnite era we're in right now. Just a rapper trying to insert himself into a media, into a hobby that he has no knowledge or interest in, and is trying to make a buck out of it. That's what I look at it. Hashtag bring back Turbo. By the way, there are some Turbo episodes on YouTube, but I suspect that I'm going to be taking those down and uploading them to BitChute soon. Cause, well, I mean, if you saw my post about it, you'll know why. Favorite albums this year. Favorite albums this year. I think my album of the year was Daytona from Pusha T. I liked Victory Lap from Nipsey Hussle. Mac Miller's Swimming, rest in peace. And that was even before Mac Miller passed away. Unfortunately, I did really enjoy. I did enjoy Swimming. Um, this new Kodak album, while I'm not a Kodak fan, I was surprisingly enjoying it. There's certain songs from that album that I enjoyed. Meek Mill's Championship is another one that I think came in a bit late. If it came in earlier, probably would have gotten more. Um, but yeah, thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 3. I will be honest, I've never been the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan. I just wasn't. But in terms of the trailers and the hype, um, it looks like it's going to be a pretty damn good end to the trilogy. So yeah, I think the hype is there, and I think Kingdom Hearts 3 will do some big business. Or at least I hope it will. Best show you saw this year from any wrestling company? Ah, boy. Ah, I was almost tempted to go with New Beginning from New Japan, but I honestly think Impact. I honestly think Slammiversary from Impact Wrestling is my wrestling show of the year. It was just the hype, the card up and down, the talent, what it meant for the company, how it's improved the company since. I have to go with Slammiversary. By the way, if you post your questions here and I haven't got to it yet or answered it, just go ahead and keep posting until I get to it. So I'm not ignoring it. It's just that the chat can be fast sometimes, right? I hear the FBI in the background. Yeah, they're out to get me, man. The wrestling police are out to get me. I've spoken too much. I've exposed the real truth. You know, they're out to get me. They're out to get me. It's bad. I'm hiding. See that? Sean Ross Sapp is sending his boys from Fightful. Look at that. WWE announcement, women tag team, and what your thoughts of Jump Force? Yeah, so apparently tonight on Raw, Mr. McMahon announced that the women's tag team titles will be a real thing. Um, eh, it's like women's wrestlers. Let's put it this way: they can't even really book a actual story or book their actual secondary and territories titles well as it is. I don't think adding another title to it's going to really do anything that's going to change any landscape. It's, a women's tag team titles are just going to be strictly there, so that way there are other things for women to do that aren't in the main world title matches. So I'm kind of indifferent. Let's put it that way. Have you watched JoJo Bizarre Adventures Part 5? They have Jodeci freaking you as their ending. Do they really? Do they really? That's funny as hell. They got Jodeci as an ending song. I do need to watch JoJo though. I just haven't been able to. I've been trying to watch a lot of anime. It's just that ACW kind of has me on a time constraint, so I haven't been able to catch up on my anime or even my CAW stuff as much as I thought I would. So I just haven't. But once I am back to putting out more content, I can be able to be easy of mind and watch other stuff. Hakeem got uncensored Holly on his laptop. Oh my god. Oh my lord. They don't really need more titles. They really don't. The titles that they have now, they can barely book. The only titles they care about are the women world titles and the Universal title. They don't even really care about the WWE world title at this point either, because it's on the B show SmackDown. Did you watch the YouTube rewind? No, the fuck I didn't, and I'm glad that's the worst YouTube video of all time. Hey, guess what, YouTube? You fuck with the content creator to see what happens. Shocker, I know. Let's see. Thoughts on a potential Batista? Oh my god, these chat. This is going fast. Just keep posting it. Just keep posting on the chat. I was meaning to ask, why do you hate Jim Sterling? I think Jim Sterling is a pompous ass, which no pun intended. But I think Jim Sterling is an arrogant cunt. I think his thoughts on certain video games are just your typical nonsense that a lot of these video game quote unquote journalists slash reviewers say to get clicks and get acceptances from a certain circle. So it is what it is. Besides SCA and SCAW, ever think of partnering with other virtual wrestling leagues like UCCW, CODM, VWF, and others? FUPW will help out too. Um, Information is classified. I'll leave it at that. Thoughts on Batista versus Triple H for WrestleMania 35? Is that a rumor? Is that an actual thing? I was gonna say I don't want to see it, but what the fuck? What else do they have? Honestly, what else do they have that would make you think that they have no choice? They need all the star power they can get. They brought in Triple H, Taker, Kane, hell, even a retiring HBK a couple months back for Crown Jewel, and it didn't do anything for their ratings. And obviously, the Crown Jewel event was panned to Kingdom Come. They got to bring in as much talent as they can. Now, granted, they're going to probably bring in Batista here because Batista's going to be most likely going to be on the Avengers Endgame movie. That'll probably be a month afterwards of WrestleMania. So they're going to promote that movie with Batista as a tie-in, and of course Triple H, because it has to be him. And I know that he's friends with Dave in the Evolution thing, but of course it has to be him to face Batista to get all that mainstream recognition. But at the same time, they have no choice. They literally have no choice. They got to get all that star power they can get. You hear the rumors of The Rock possibly doing a WrestleMania, Taker, Cena. They need all the star power they can get. I know, and I know I don't want to see a lot of these old timers back because the well has beyond gone bone dry. But what choice do they have? SmackDown's gonna go to Fox in October. They have to get ready for that rollout. It's going to be a year-long rollout until October. They have to get ready. They have to put all their eggs in a basket now. So what else can you do in that sense? Haven't you heard about Gohan lately since he's returning after Animania 5? Um, I did. There are some related news about Gohan that will be revealed this week. That's all I can say. So, what do you think will be the main event for WrestleMania 35? Honestly, with there being part timers, Roman Reigns being gone, John Cena no longer being a full time presence, it's going to be the women main eventing. I'm confident at this point that the women are main eventing WrestleMania, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they want to go that route, but that's where they're going to go. And I'm still in the belief that they're going to still go with Ronda and Charlotte. Sorry, Becky fans, but the Becky thing happened by accident. As much as that they're riding the wave right now, they see the potential in Ronda Rousey, their biggest star, period, in the company, and Charlotte, the biggest star that they've had since the Women's Revolution. They're going to put those two together as a quote-unquote dream match. It's going to happen. Um, if Becky somehow makes it a triple threat, that might happen too, but I doubt we're going to get a triple threat in that sense. Um, I'm not saying Becky's gonna face Nia Jax at Mania, but I am saying that somehow, some way, Charlotte and Ronda will have a form of a match at WrestleMania. I may be wrong. It may very well be Becky and Ronda, but I'm just telling you right now to save you from disappointment that right now the Ronda Charlotte thing's been teased since the Rumble this year when Ronda made her debut. That's where they're probably gonna go here. I'm just gonna let you know right now so you don't get disappointed. I'm just saying. Uh, will you have some WWE wrestlers in ACW like UCCW does? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The only reason why I did that a year ago with John Cena and Luffy was because, okay, I think I've revealed this before, but Luffy had a match during a Element tournament back in 2008, and I left the interference option on. So when I did that match, I think it was with Cyborg and Luffy. Somehow John Cena randomly came in to interfere in that match between Luffy and Cyborg, and I was like, "What the hell?" Oh, like, oh man, well, I can't record. I don't know. I mean, I gotta get this out now. I can't just re-record it now. So I just rolled with it. So in order to get a payoff with it, I just did Luffy versus Cena. I just I just did it just to get out the way, so that way people can just hate John Cena at that time. Luffy can get a win over a WWE guy, and that's the end of that. So if you ever wanted to know about that whole thing with Luffy and Cena, that's how it started. That's why it happened. Um, let's see. Are there any celebrities coming to Animania 5? Again, information is classified. I cannot reveal that at this time. Um, let's see here. Would it be a big shock and a big laugh if Sana Yamada went to ACW? And yes, I am aware she's from Tenchi Muyo GXP. I I'll say this right now. I was not a fan of Tenchi Muyo GXP. I really wasn't. It wasn't the same to me, even if you use the Tenchi Muyo name. Um, Now I'm sad. You heard me, Hakeem. Well, look, ACW is an anime-centric league with certain video game characters, like, and even then, that might start to change in that way. But um, yeah. Oh my god. I'm just I'm not a hybrid guy. I'm strictly a fantasy call league. That's what I am. There's a lot of other promotions that are hybrids that can do that kind of stuff. More power to them. That's not me. That's not what I want to do. Let's see. How many takes did you have to do when you record a Royal Rumble? Uh, Surprisingly, I only did one retake this year in this year's Rumble. Because usually when I do Royal Rumbles, those are usually the more hectic and intense recordings because I have to get them right because of the stories being told and the way I need certain people eliminated. It can be tough, and there have been many times where I had to restart over and over and over and over again. But this season's Royal Rumble, not so much, not so much. Let's see. Thoughts on Hentai Haven getting shut down and now partnering with Faku? Well, I'm sure it's a early Christmas gift to a lot of you. So I'm sure a lot of you guys were happy about that. Let's see. Do you think the Broly from the new Dragon Ball Super is essentially a different character or the same one as before? Well, the fact that the new Broly is going to be canon, I have to say it's different than the old movie only uh, Broly. What are your predictions of Wrestle Kingdom 13 next Friday? Who's going to win? Uh, like I said, I thought Noah was a better product than New Japan this year, so I haven't really been all that impressed or really following New Japan in that sense like I did last year and these couple of years. But um, I think I think Tanahashi's gonna probably win as one last run. I think this Kenny Omega title run has been overrated, and I think it's honestly hasn't been all that good. So yeah, and the Young Bucks will probably win the tag titles. Okada probably beats Jay White. You pretty much know certain reactions the way they're gonna go. I think Naito will beat Jericho. You know where some of these matches are going. In all seriousness, how was your Christmas Eve? It's been pretty cool. It's getting some ACW programming done before tomorrow. I'm basically free till Thursday because I've been working 2 weeks of retail, full stop. Maybe like a day or two breaks in and there, but I've essentially been working like retail for 2 weeks full for the holiday season. It's been hell, but so I'm taking this break and cherishing it very much. Original characters to look out for in 2019. Um, so I mean Jamal Bedlam. There you go. Walter Scott. I know he's already established, but I think next year could also be something for him. Um, Elizabeth Prisa. Um, who else? I could be here all night doing this again. I don't want to be here all night doing that because I did that for the last newscast. So, but I'll leave it at that. Um, the Omega title run was underwhelming as hell. Yeah, dude. I mean, I'll never forget what this is something Jim Ross has said many times, but the chase is better than the catch. Meaning, sometimes for a superstar, the chase of the title is better than them actually winning it. So, kind of like another example of that would be kind of like Samoa Joe. When people wanted Samoa Joe to become the TNA World Champion, he finally won it, and it wasn't all that spectacular. Now you can probably attest that to TNA's booking or what may have you, or other superstars being over Joe when he was champion, but it just didn't work. It just wasn't it wasn't compatible for what they were looking for. What are your thoughts about Smash Ultimate? I haven't played it yet. I still need to get a Switch, which is coming very soon. But once I get a Switch and get the game, I will let you know, and I will play it. Will Terry Bogard come to ACW now that he's out of ACL? I mean, you never know. Especially with this season, especially with this season, anything can happen. Have you watched Baki? My brother actually has been watching that more so than me, but I have caught a glimpse of it, and it looks like a pretty cool show. Um, I I probably will give it a go around. I got some anime to catch up on, so wrestlers who are better champions than challengers. You guys might not like this answer, but I think John Cena would fit in that um, criteria as being a better champion than the challenger. Now, granted, some of his title reigns have sucked, and some of them were really bad, but there were other ones where it was fun. There were other ones where him as a champion really elevated the prestige of the championship, rather than him just challenging for every single title opportunity that he was given. So, I think John Cena would be a good example of that. I see someone saying Edge. Edge would be another one. Um, let's see who else? Who else would I be thinking as that? Bret Hart. I thought Bret Hart was. Um, Okada. I agree with Okada. Okada's another one. I don't think Kanoa from Noah is a better champion than the Challenger, in my opinion. Especially once he defeated Eddie Edwards when he was the GHC champion. So there are examples out there, is what I'm saying. Did you ever watch Dead Man Wonderland? I have not watched that, but I am very aware. I'm very aware. Stone Cold, Stone Cold was better. To me, Stone Cold was better when he was chasing The Rock or Taker or whoever was champion at the time than when he actually won it. That's just me. All right, we're at 9:45 p.m. here, Pacific time here. Pacific. Yeah, I said it right. Pacific. Fuck you. We're at 9:45 p.m. Pacific time. I will give you guys 10 more minutes to get your final questions and comments in before I call this a very good night. Once again, the Element Tournament, the second round, will be resuming on Sunday. Impulse 100 will hopefully also be this week. I'm just getting the final kinks done with that. Anime Revolution, hopefully I can get that out too. If not this week, probably it's going to be next week. ACW Direct, I probably will get that out maybe this week as well. You'll basically get a lot of content coming up with HW this week and next week. So, let's see. Have you seen the Transformers Bumblebee movie? I have not. The only movies that I'm really gonna go see, or the only movies on theaters that I'm really hyped to really see at this moment, are the Broly movie, Avengers Endgame, Godzilla. I'm watching Godzilla. That trailer looks so fucking good. A lot of you King Kong ass bitches with your little hype because he ripped off that T Rex's jaw. He ain't doing that to Godzilla. So you can all stay in that bandwagon. When this movie comes out with Godzilla and all those Godzilla fans are hype, you stay the fuck over there. Because King Kong ain't doing that on Godzilla. Alright? So there you go. On Dragon Ball Super Episode 89, did you hear the English voice of Kaba, Kale, and Khalifa? I didn't watch the English dub of Dragon Ball Super, so. How came I tagged you on a post and I shared the JoJo ending? Cool. I will go check that out. Godzilla is the king of the monsters. You damn right he is. King Kong. No, Godzilla's king of the monsters. He's the real king. King Kong should be giving Godzilla his damn crown. You know, one day we're gonna have to get the King Kong versus Godzilla movie. You know how Freddy versus Jason and all that stuff. We got to get King Kong versus Godzilla. I don't want no humans involved. I just want a great 45-minute action fight between Godzilla and King Kong. If you can give me that, I'm buying. I am buying. For next year's Element tournament, I might have some groups I want to join in. Speaking of Element, women to look out for next year. Real life finish your choice. I cannot reveal, nor will I reveal anything past this first Element tournament. So, you'll just probably have to wait maybe after the finals for any more new information if we're gonna do any sort of second Element tournament next year or something like that. But women to look out for next year. I honestly do think Yang from ACL is someone that's gonna have a big year. You know, I said Bindi Irwin earlier. I said Elizabeth Priest earlier. I said um I mean who else? Lucina. There's a lot of potential over there as to who would have a great year next year. Have you listened to XXX Tentacion's Skins album? No, I haven't, and I'll probably get to it. King Kong would lose to Donkey Kong. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. King Kong versus Godzilla is going to be in 2020. Actually, oh, cool. I did not know that. Then they already have my money. Then they already have my money. Seriously, I need a King Kong versus Godzilla uh, action fight. No, no bullshit like they did with Batman versus Superman. Just a straight up fight of the two greatest monsters of their time, going at it, destroying buildings, flipping shit over, just nonstop. If you can't tell how hype I am with this Godzilla movie, then you're not listening clearly. And Ghidorah looks great, by the way. I want to say that too. Um, Night Raid reminds me of Shield and Harper and Roarin, even the War Raiders, aka War Machine, combined. That is a lot of teams to combine. I will say though that Night Raid, I think we can probably call it maybe a Night Raid. I don't know about you guys, but I think Night Raid to me is the greatest tag team in ACW history. You know, you got your Street Fighters, you've got Team Guy, you've got the Straw Hat Crew, you've got those teams. But I think with what Night Raid has done and how they shaped the tag team division culture in ACW, I think they I think they pretty much are the tag team of all time in ACW. Feel free to agree or disagree, but that's right. That's where I see that. Thoughts on Jump Force? It's looking pretty nice. I know that Deku got revealed. I know Light's gonna be in the game. Trunks got revealed. Boa Hancock from One Piece. A lot of great stuff. You know, it's a lot of great stuff. Night Raid or Shoryuken? Hmm, that is an interesting question. I will let the chat answer that question. How about that? The big dog. I just want to say that. I just want to say that. Do you think Brock will squash Braun yet again at the Rumble? Honestly, at this point, I don't give a shit. I think they passed on Braun one too many times. He's clearly not as over as he once was a year and a half ago when he had the chance to win the Universal title from Brock. That time, I don't think the Braun experiment's dead, but I think it's clearly has stifled and it's been clearly cooled off. Um, yeah, at this point I don't care. Even if Braun does win the title at this point, I just don't care anymore. I really don't. And I feel bad because Braun really was starting to gain traction. He was really getting over to be this monster among men. And then you have Brock Lesnar pretty much throw him around like a bitch. And then just other stuff that they did with Braun as it related to Brock Lesnar, just I didn't like. Um, yeah, yeah. Did you see that video about New Japan Pro Wrestling making all the main champions white to appeal to a Western audience? I hope they don't. Because then you're basically WWE Japan at that point. And I'm not trying to make that a racial thing, but I'm basically just saying that you should just do what you feel is right for what your company does. And it goes back to the whole women's wrestling argument that I did earlier tonight as it pertains to the wrestling journalists like Sean Ross Bitch and Ryan Sapton, all those guys. You don't need to appeal to people that you can't guarantee will be a casual audience for you. Yes, to expand, you're going to have to do certain things here and there, but that doesn't mean you have to overcompensate for that. You know, a Jay White or a Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks, they don't all have to be champions. It's fine to have an Ishii as a champion or a Okada or a Naito. You know, I think Japan underestimates that Americans have evolved to where they can accept that other um, you know, Japanese-born wrestlers as champions has a certain appeal to the Western audience. Hell, anime, and anime has a resurgence. Anime has had a resurgence from the mid 2000s when, other than like maybe a Death Note here or a Full Metal Alchemist there, anime wasn't as revered or as popular or as loved mainstream wise as it is now. So so in that sense, I think Western audiences are more accepting to that Japanese culture to where they don't need to be pandered and appeased with that type of stuff if New Japan's really trying to go down that way. Um, but yeah, I'm not saying that Cody, Jericho, or an Omega or the Young Bucks or whatever can't be champions there. I'm just saying make sure they're champions because it makes sense, not because you need to force a certain narrative and pander to that certain narrative to think it'll do something for you. That's just my opinion, though. Dream match to win an ACW contract: Simon Belmont versus Joker. I think he was trying to imply that as a potential match for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate event coming up. Which, by the way, that's pretty much been recorded at this point. I just need to put certain things together, but it's gonna be a fun event. By the way, as a matter of fact, we will have a new match revealed from that event this week as well. So just look out for that. Worst thing that happened in New Japan was changing ownership. Yeah, I'm starting to see the cracks. I'm definitely starting to see I said it earlier, but I thought Noah has been a better Japanese promotion than New Japan this year, in my opinion. I just been more interested in Noah. I thought Stardom has had a pretty solid year despite losing, Kyrie last year and then Io this year. And apparently Mayu probably might be injured. But Momo's been doing a pretty good job there. Hana has been become a little bit of a star. Kagetsu are dominating in their own field. So it's been interesting. Starlight Kid, who I've been becoming a little bit of a fan as well as of late. So, you know, it's been pretty solid. I still don't trust Alosh controlling impulse, even if for some control. I I will say Lelouch's done a good job so far, but after the whole JSA thing, I mean, you don't want history to repeat. You don't want history to repeat itself. Should Jericho become IWGP World Champion someday? I don't. I'm not. I don't. That's a very WWE thing to do. You're just gonna give Jericho that for what reason? For what reason? For what purpose? Why would Jericho become the IWGP World Champion? Why? Ah, that would be a very WWE thing to do if that was New Japan. I wouldn't do it. I'm not even interested right now with Jericho's IC title run. I think Jericho has kind of overextended his welcome so far in New Japan, and the interest that there was from him there last year clearly doesn't match this year, in my opinion. There's been some mistakes with New Japan this year that a lot of people are overlooking because it's New Japan. But let alone if WWE, Impact, or ROH does it, they would laser beam it to its core. But because it's New Japan, they get overlooked. I'm just I'm aware. I'm aware. I'm aware. But again, our wrestling journalists, media, always doing their due diligence, a great job, obviously. So thoughts on Joker from P5 joining Smash Ultimate as a DLC? Well, I mean, when you're a part of the Royale Rumble, I guess you get certain perks here and there. I'm kidding, obviously. And by the way, for those that didn't get the joke, it was a joke. Imagine people thinking I actually was serious when I said that, but when I said Sakurai was watching ACW, Jesus Christ, can't even joke anymore without someone actually getting offended. But do Stardom and Dragon Gate have a service to watch the shows? Yes, I believe they do. Stardom has Stardom World. You can go ahead and check that out and order their service. And I think Dragon Gate has their own personal service. I think either that or through DDT or I think. By the way, Dragon Gate, making a little bit of a comeback itself this year. By the way, but thoughts on Current Okada? I know it's for a storyline reason. I know it's because Okada's down on his luck after after Guido and Jay White affected from Chaos to the Bullet Club, and which, by the way, oh my god, I'm so fucking done with the Bullet Club. End it already. I was done with it even during the end of AJ's run there, and now we're here with Jay White as the leader now. Jay White. It went from Devitt to AJ to Omega, now to White. Come on, come on. At least you could have made it Tama Tonga being the OG there as the leader. You could have at least made it him being the leader. But Jay White, nah, I'm gonna have to pass. I'm gonna have to pass. I'm done with the Bullet Club. I'm really am. Chaos and the Suzuki Club, and Los Ignobles, De Japan. Come on, they're more interesting at this point than the Bullet Club at this point. You know what I mean? Enough. Any titles you thought of bringing in but decided not to? I did thought about bringing a hardcore S title at one point during the Turbo era. The Turbo era. There we go. But yeah, I kind of scrapped it. Hardcore titles are pretty passe. It's kind of its own period, its own time. I don't think bringing it back, whether it's virtual wrestling or pro wrestling, really has any effect anymore. But let's see. Everyone in chat, if it's a Raw episode or an Impulse or XL episode, watch Impulse or XL, please. I do want to thank all of you guys that did watch that Impulse episode that I posted the day of, I think, Raw or whatever. I appreciate that. Yeah, again, I'm not agreeing with the whole Jay White thing either. The Switchblade thing, I'm not really down on, but him being the leader of the Bullet Club, which is pretty much passe at this point to me, I'm just kind of indifferent and done with it at this point. The Elite are doing their own thing. Apparently, they're going to do their own promotion and all that nonsense. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. And that looks like that's going to be it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me for the newscast number 90, the special Christmas edition of 2018. Once again, I want to thank all of you guys for watching, for listening in. Um, and I understand that we have some new viewers, some new fans of ACW since last weekend. Obviously, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank you guys for following ACW. Subscribe to the channel, watch some of the episodes and shows that we do here. Interact with our community here and our fandom. There's some of the greatest people out here. They're going to help you out whenever you need to. So we thank you for that. Um, Unless we do a newscast for the New Year's Eve edition, this is the final newscast of 2018. So, um, yeah, either that or we'll just see you at the Animania 5 week newscast. So until then, I want to thank all you guys for joining us. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Yom Kippur, Festivus, and any other tradition that you celebrate during this time of season. Basically, have a happy holidays. Um, spend some time with your loved ones. Tell them that you love them, and that you're happy that they're here, and that you're happy that they're here with them. Um, no better time to do it than now. Um, but yeah, so enjoy that. Thank you guys for joining me this year with ACW. Thank you for helping me out. Thank you for supporting the product, supporting the shows, and just supporting the newscast, all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys for being thank you guys for being the greatest fan base in CAW to me. I really do believe that. You guys are awesome. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But yeah, enjoy yourselves. You guys deserve it. If you've been good this year, enjoy it, embrace it, love it. I'll see you guys hopefully this week with some new episodes of shows and programming. Hopefully, Impulse 100 is out this week. The second round of the Element Tournament will be out this week as well. ACW Direct for Anime Revolution will be out this week. Hopefully, Anime Revolution will be out this week as well, but I doubt it. Um, but yeah, okay, I'm rambling at this point. All right, thank you guys very much. You guys have a Merry Christmas. Love you guys. And until then, stay cool. Stay cool. I will see you.